Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the Minister of Beauty, and I wanted to talk about something that a lot of people have asked me about over the years, so I thought it would be something that I should just do a video on, put it out there, and if I have to answer the question again, I don't mind doing it, but I just thought this would be the perfect time to just talk about it. Being in a place in their lives, whether it's your job or your career, you may not call it a career, and you may just call it a job, and you're wanting to do something different. And that was where I was many years ago. I was in the legal field. I was a legal assistant for about 12 years. And I don't have any complaints about being in the legal field. It was actually an opportunity that I was granted and I was blessed by, because I went into it straight out of high school. So I started in the legal field when I was a high school senior. Because the thing about it was, I was a teen mom and I had a baby when I was in high school. And I just always had this thought in my mind, because at that time of having a child, I didn't have a job. My now husband, who is our child's father, he was working. We met in high school, and he's a few years older than I am, but I just did not want to get a job, and I definitely didn't have a desire to do what a lot of people did, which I'm not knocking it, which is food service. I just did not want to do that. But in my homeroom class, when I was in the 12th grade, the homeroom teacher, he was new to the school at that time, and to be honest with you, the high school that I went to wasn't the greatest. A lot of people there weren't really serious about life, and it's just a blessing that God blessed me with a mindset that I did not fall into the trap of having the type of lifestyle that a lot of people had that went to the school that I went to. Yeah, I had a baby, but that wasn't the lifestyle that I was living, because I wasn't a promiscuous person or anything like that and sleeping around. I just happened to be in a relationship with somebody, and we wound up getting pregnant, and I was very young. But he was asking if people wanted to get help looking for work, he could possibly help. And so anyone that was interested, come and see him. I was the only one who did. And his wife happened to be an attorney. So he said, well, I may have an opportunity for you. I'll check in with my wife and see if I might be able to get you in to work at the law firm that she's working in. And I was like, are you serious? And he said, yeah. And it worked. It actually happened. So I got into that, and things just worked out. I'm not going to give the long story because I don't want to make this a 30-minute video. But I worked in this law firm. I got experience on the job as a legal assistant. I actually started out as a receptionist, and I expressed my interest in learning more. So I got on the job experience. So I didn't go to school to be a legal assistant. I actually got on the job experience. I worked in a law firm where they handled employment and labor law and a number of other things, but that was their main focus, which was employment and labor law. So I learned a lot on the job, and I got on the job experience, and I got promotions and raises and all that stuff. And I worked in the first law firm that I ever worked in for 5.5 years. So that was a feat in itself, because a lot of people who are starting out that are young, they don't work on jobs that long. But I did. And from there, I worked in a number of different law firms over the years. Some were cool experiences, some not so much, but I got the experience. And I can remember there was this day I was working in this large law firm. It was in the downtown area of the city that I was working in, and there was a woman who was the head paralegal in the department that I was working in. That department I was working in handled it was for defense, workers' compensation. So pretty much when someone files a workers' compensation claim when they're working on a job, you have these attorneys that will represent the plaintiffs, which are the employees. Well, we represented the employers. We represented the businesses and the jobs, which really we represented the insurance companies. So we would be the ones that would get the reports back from private investigators when people said they were permanently and totally disabled and they couldn't work anymore, but these people were living the lifestyle as if nothing was wrong with them. So it was kind of funny and comical to me, but at the same time, it wasn't really what I wanted to do forever. And I had been in the legal field for many years. Again, like I said, I got the opportunity straight out of high school, so it was a blessing, but it wasn't a career that I was seeking, and it wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And one day I was in the department I was working in, I was sitting at my cubicle and the head paralegal of that department, she was a much older woman. She was, I think she was Italian. I can't really remember, but she was walking and she just looked like she was out of it. And she was a nice person, but she didn't really have an upbeat presence, and it was a little bit depressing when I would be around her. But that day when she was walking through the department, she just looked so depressed and so out of it. And she would complain about the job a lot. She would complain about having to travel there and the distance and the amount of work that she had to do and all of this other stuff. And I was like thinking to myself, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Do I want to be this person in 20, 30 years, however old she was? I don't remember exactly how old she was back then. But that was the trigger for me. That was like, I need to start looking for something different in terms of a career, because that made me remember that I've been in this for a long time. At that time, I want to say that was around the year 2005 when I left that law firm and had that realization that that was not what I wanted to do, but I needed to start looking into doing something different if I did not want to be that same person. So I got a job at a different law firm closer to where I lived. So I didn't have to have that distance and travel anymore, because it took me a good bit, especially with the traffic, to get to the downtown area. And I just kind of got tired of that. So I said, well, I'll see if I can get something closer to my home. And there were not a lot of law firms that were closer to my home. And if there were, a lot of those people, they weren't giving out those jobs. So it was not an easy thing to find. But God blessed, and I was able to get in through a temp agency into this law firm that was not far from my home. And the attorney that I was working for, he was a nice person. I thought he was a nice person, but he was not one of the main partners of the firm. It was a smaller law firm. Actually, it was kind of the opposite, because the first law firm that I ever worked in was a very small law firm. And then over the years, the other law firms that I worked in were usually larger law firms than the first one that I ever worked in. And then this last law firm, which was at that time for me, I didn't really know it, but I just was speaking it. This is the last law firm that I'm ever going to work in. Again, was another small law firm. But it was so different than what I had dealt with in the first law firm that I ever worked in, because that, even though it was professional, they seemed to be a little bit more family oriented. This law firm, it was so unprofessional. I had never been in a law firm before where they were like cursing people out and like F this and S that, and I honestly just had never worked in an environment where that type of language was okay, because I at that time had learned so much about professionalism in the workplace that a lot of those things were not okay. Now, of course, it was okay for the attorney to speak that way if they were just pissed about the way a case was handled or decided, or if they lost a case or just something like that, they might be letting off, some profanity and letting off the steam because they were okay to do that, but it wasn't okay for the employees to speak that way. But in this firm, it was just like whatever goes. I didn't operate that way, so it was very uncomfortable for me. And then I don't like to call people racist unless I have like legitimate proof that they are, but one of the partners in the firm, he just did not like me, and it wasn't anything that I did. And I was the only black person that worked there, so it wasn't, the easy thing to say is that the person's racist because they don't like me and I'm black. That's the easy thing to say. I don't like to just say that just because somebody doesn't care for me or they don't show that they like me, well then they must be racist. But all I did was come there and did do my job and left. I didn't hang out with anyone. These people, a lot of them had been working in that law firm for many, many years, so it was more like a clique. And for example, some of the legal assistants that worked there had worked there off and on for like 20 something years. So they have had babies and marriages and divorces and all these different things. So they would speak to each other like they were family. So it was like F you and laughing, and they could speak to each other like that. I never could do that. Neither did I want to, because it just wasn't who I was. But this guy, he just, for whatever reason, did not like me. And even when he would try to have small talk, it just came across as very fake, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. But and sorry guys, I know I say a lot of but whatever. I am thinking of a few times where I just had situations in that firm, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I wanted to go back to school. And when I started to work there, I let the attorney know that I was going to be working for, that I was going back to school, and I was going back to school to become a licensed massage therapist. And I don't think that attorney that didn't like me liked that. Even though I didn't work for him directly, because he was a partner in the firm and this was a small law firm, he just had issues with me. So it was, a lot of small talk being made about me going to school, and none of them knew me. When I came to work there, I already made my intentions known, and also asked if it was okay if I left a little bit early, if I could because we had an hour lunch break, if I could cut my lunch break down to 45 minutes or 30 minutes and leave 15 minutes early so that I could get into my travel so that I can make it to class on time. Because with that program, you could not be late. If you were late, the doors were locked and you weren't able to get in. And with these types of programs, it's all hours based. So if you are missing a certain number of hours, then you're not going to be able to get all the hours you need in order to complete the program and then be able to be eligible to take your licensing exam. So the attorney that I was working for, he said that that was fine and that was working out fine. But the law firm just started becoming more toxic over time. I worked in that law firm from 2005 through 2007. I finished my massage therapy program in 2006. So I continued working as a legal assistant, and then I started pursuing the opportunities as a licensed massage therapy on the side during hours where it would not conflict with my current job as a legal assistant. And then I also had the audacity to start a business on the side as a massage therapist. And even though I did that, I didn't really take it seriously because I was honestly a bit afraid. But I did it anyway. I did it afraid. And I got opportunities as a massage therapist offered to me, and some of them I turned down in the beginning just out of straight fear. And I just didn't feel like I was ready, but I also was tired of the law firm that I was working in. And then again, the reason I was going back to school for something different was because I was just tired of the legal field altogether, and I did not want to be in it much longer than I wanted to be. But the tensions in the law firm started rising. The attorney that did not really like me, again, like I said, I don't have any proof that he was racist. Investigate to find out if he was or not. I just knew how he treated me, and I know that I didn't do anything that was warranted to get the type of treatment that I got from him. I was just a black woman working a job. That was it. And things just were happening that I didn't understand. It made the environment for me so toxic that I just did not want to continue to work there. And even thinking about it now, because that was so long ago, I don't talk about it very often. So it's kind of funny that I'm speaking about it right now, and it's crazy. I'm getting a little emotional about it, and I didn't expect that. But I was much younger. Wow, guys, I didn't even expect this. It's crazy. But I couldn't really talk to my husband about it because he didn't understand it. He wouldn't have understand it, or he would not have understood it. I wasn't making a great amount of money, and for the amount of work that I was doing, I really was doing the work of about 2 or 3 legal assistants at sometimes for the amount of pay that I was getting. And so it really was not a lot of money. The attorney that I was working for, he was actually pretty cool, and he even helped out where there were a couple of times we had some civil, legal things that we just needed some assistance with, my husband and I, and he helped us out and didn't charge us anything for it. And we even had a raw deal once, a house that we were renting years ago. During the time I was living there, it was a crooked landlord. We were supposed to be renting to own the house. It was in a pretty decent area at the time. Things have changed over the years, so now I thank God that situation did not work out. Because they didn't have a homeowners association, and back then it was pretty nice, but I think over the years things have just kind of went downhill because now a lot of the homes over there are rented out Section 8, and not knocking anybody who gets Section 8, but home values decrease, and it's just a lot of stuff. Anyway, getting off on a tangent, I'll get back on the topic here. The landlord was crooked, and he decided after all of the money that we paid in for the deposit, which was supposed to go towards the down payment for the house, he came up with some type of loophole, which he probably does this to everybody. If the guy is still in business today, hopefully he's not even alive to this day, and I don't wish harm on anybody, but what goes around comes around, and you just don't treat people dirty like that and continue to live well. He had some type of loophole, and he said that we could continue to rent the house, but it was going to be like almost $400 more than what we were currently renting it for. The money that we had put in for the deposit, we were going to lose that, and we would need to put in another deposit if we wanted. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And we did not have another place to go. I think we had like 30 days to find another place or make a decision. And I just prayed, and I was like, God, something has to work out. And I just happened to tell the attorney that I was working for about it. And he said, well, I just bought a house. It's in this new neighborhood. You should check it out. Because I was trying to find something at the time that was going to be in the same school zone that our son's school was in. Because we didn't want to have him to have to go to a different school and just a lot of stuff. And it worked out. He actually rented the house out to us. It was going to be less than we were renting it out for the other house that was a much older house. This house was brand new. Actually, I think it had only been like maybe 2 years old, and he rented it out brand new to a previous tenant, and he was evicting that person. We got it, and we lived there for a couple of years before we bought our house, which we bought in 2009, and we've been here ever since. But he was a decent person. But the one of the partners of the firm, who just was not nice, and I'm not going to call any names out. Like I said, I don't have any proof that the guy was racist, but I just felt like he didn't really like me because I was a black person, and he just was making me so uncomfortable with the treatment, where I would cry on Sunday nights because I did not want to go to work on Mondays, but I knew I needed to work. I knew I needed to, do what I needed to do to help contribute to the household. And I just got so fed up with being there, and I had an offer to work in a chiropractor's office, and even though the pay was going to be really good, the hours weren't guaranteed, and I was just used to getting a guaranteed paycheck, and I was nervous about it. But the chiropractor said, well, it's up to you. You can make the decision. The offer is yours, but I need to know before a certain period of time. And I just started packing my stuff up out of the office that I had in that firm and taking my things home, just little bit by little bit. I didn't pack everything up and just leave, but just like my personal things, like pictures of my family and just other stuff that I had in the office to make me feel sort of at home while I was at work. I just started packing those things up, and it was almost like the spirit was leading me out of there spiritually before I left physically. And one of the girls there was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just packing my things up because I'm just preparing myself to leave here. I hadn't been threatened or anything like that, but I just felt like my time was drawing near, that I was going to be done there. And then it may have been either 1 or 2 weeks later, after I had completed packing the things up that I had in that office, that same attorney that I said that did not like me, I think it may have been a Monday morning. I was in my office, I had the door closed, I was working, and someone knocks on the door, and I'm like, I'm saying yes, and he just busts the door open and had an empty box, slammed it, like bam, slammed it on my desk and said, we're letting you go. And I didn't even ask why. I was like, okay. And I think he was expecting me to ask why, or to start crying, or to beg to keep my job. I just said, okay. And I got my handbag, and he said, well, we got a box here for your stuff. I said, I actually don't need it. And he was surprised because I guess he just thought he was going to have me do this walk of shame where I have all of my stuff in a box and I'm being led out of the law firm. And again, it was a small law firm, so it wasn't like it was some big place where they had security and they were going to have to escort me out. Like none of that happened. It was really just to try to humiliate me because he didn't like me. And even though I was relieved of being there and feeling like a weight was lifted off of me, I still cried when I left, not in front of anybody, but when I left, and I believe I was in my car, I may have called somebody and spoke to them. But I cried. It wasn't a cry of hurt, it was a cry of release. And I won't even say it was a cry of relief with an F, but a cry of release, where I was just releasing the tension and the emotions from the couple of years that I had worked there in this toxic environment, where just a lot of things were said and a lot of things were done that made me feel uncomfortable. And I had worked in law firms before where I was the only black person. That wasn't my first time. That wasn't anything new to me, but it was new to me being made to feel like I was not worthy because of who I was, and you don't even know me. I didn't work for him. The attorney that I worked with and worked for personally, he did not come in and let me go, which I felt like that would have been the appropriate thing to do. But again, this was a law firm that was extremely unprofessional. They may have done things professionally where it involves dealing with the courts and the systems and paperwork and processes to work for their clients, but when it came to working with the staff and how they treated, well, I would say how they treated me, I wasn't the only one that had gotten harsh treatment over time, but I got it for no reason. There were fat, lazy people that had worked there that just weren't doing their jobs, and they would just let them slob their way by, and then they would just eventually get fed up and curse the person out and whatever, but still let them work there. But me, this person who was doing their job, but just because you didn't like me, you didn't either like the way I looked, or you didn't like the fact that I didn't interact with everybody and whatever. I don't know. I just never operated that way. I've always, when I worked on jobs, I always felt like I was hired to do a job, so I'm gonna come, do the job, and leave. I didn't come to work to socialize. And I guess it's cool if people make friends and stuff on these jobs, but I just was never like that. I'm a pretty to myself type of person. I've always pretty much been that way. So I wasn't antisocial. I was just pro doing my job when it was time to come to work and to work. Because lo and behold, I did not want to be the black chick who was lazy. And I'm just saying that because that is unfortunately the way some people look at some black people. Like, they don't want to work. They just want everything handed to them. They don't want to, work for it. They're lazy. They just want to check. They want everything given to them. So I've always come to work to do the work and leave. I never came to work to socialize and to make friends and all that stuff. And they were like that, but I was different. Yeah, I was different. I was black, not just because I came to work and work, because I'm not saying they didn't work, but I did not want to be judged on the wrong things. I can't help if someone judges me because I am an African American woman, but I can help if someone tries to judge me based on me not doing my work when I was doing my work. They couldn't say that. So that's why there was no real reason that they would let me go. So he was shocked when I did not have a bunch of stuff to pack in a box to walk out and have a walk of shame. So I just was like, well, I don't need it. And I didn't say it in a way that was going to make me look like I was being rude, or I'm going back and forth with you, or you can't fire me because I quit, like that type of stuff that people would do on television shows. I just wasn't fighting it because it wasn't worth the fight anymore. And I honestly sometimes feel like that was God's way of pushing me into the way that he was leading me to go in this new direction of being someone who specialized in wellness and beauty, which is what I do now. I don't practice massage therapy anymore. I'm still licensed in it, but I'm a licensed esthetician, and I will do that until I'm not supposed to do it anymore. But I don't know if I would have made the step out if I wasn't pushed out by being fired. So in actuality, even though the way the guy treated me was not right and the way I was let go was undeserved, he did me a favor. And I mean, I think they had 2 law firms, or I won't say 2 locations where they would be able to practice from in terms of office spaces. But I went from being this little old legal assistant to a little young legal assistant that's black to owning a brick and mortar business that I had multiple locations as well. And I never saw that for myself back then, but I never went back to them to say, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing, and in your face. But I'm quite sure that God has allowed somebody there to see me and see what I'm doing, and that is all the revenge that I needed. So honestly, guys, I just thought I would share some of that. I didn't have a script for this, so I didn't really know what I was going to say, but I just tried to say what's on my heart when I'm talking about a situation so that it comes off more authentic. So I hope that this story has helped somebody. If you have any questions about any of it, feel free to let me know in the comment section, and let me know if you've had any situations where you have been, unfairly terminated, or you were made to feel uncomfortable working on a job where you may have been discriminated against, or there were some racial tensions going on in the atmosphere and you didn't really realize it until later. As I was sitting here talking with you guys again, I didn't expect to get emotional about it, because I haven't gotten emotional about it since it happened, and that was in 2007. I've well past that and moved on from the situation. But with everything that's going on right now in the world, I often say sometimes that if I've dealt with any racist situations, I don't really remember them specifically because it may have just been like an instance versus just outwardly, racist. And I don't know, again, if that guy was actually racist. I know he's Italian. There are stereotypes, about that. I don't know if he's from where I'm from originally, but he just did not like me. And there was nothing that I could have done or nothing that I would have done to get him to like me. Because if somebody doesn't like you, then that's their problem. It's not yours. And him not liking me was not my problem. It was his. And I wasn't going to crawl on my hands and knees begging for this job, because God has always been my source, and he has blessed me tremendously over the years, more than I even could have imagined or have thought about having. And greater is even coming than what I've worked for. God can do so much more than what I can do with my own hands, and he's shown me that over and over again. So that situation was just for experience. It'll definitely be to help somebody else. So again, I hope this story has encouraged some of you, to let you know that you might be in a situation in your life. You may feel like you're stuck. You may feel like you're unhappy and you're just ready to break out. The time will come. Just try to have patience. Try to endure, because those that endure to the end, they will be saved if you trust and believe that. So that's it for this story time, guys, on Life Thursdays on the Minister of Beauty channel. So thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And again, I am the Minister of Beauty, here to share the Bible. That's business, inspiration, beauty, life, and enjoyment. So until next time, have an amazingly blessed and beautiful day.